Testing, testing.
All right, we are going to go ahead and get started with the second half of the day so that it's Friday. And I want to make sure we get you on time. For those of you that are probably like me, I've got a football game to go to tonight between Hamilton High School and Chandler. So we're trying to see if Hamilton High School can make it to the open playoffs. The only way they can do that is they have to beat Chandler tonight, and then somebody in that division has got to lose a game. And that's going to happen because they in Creek plays Quick Creek, somebody's got to lose. So hopefully my nephew will be in the Open Division Championship or Open Division playoffs.
All right.
Winning the championship is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Playoffs is the start.
yeah, that's going to be a tough one. All right, so as we go through the presentation today talking about inside the Nurturing Fathers program, I want to give you an inside look because oftentimes you might hear us refer to Nurturing Fathers Nurturing Fathers program or the curriculum that individuals have gone through. And so we're going to give you an inside look at that. Edward and I are going to talk about it, both of us are trainers. Edward is a trainer consultant. I'm finishing up my paperwork to be a trainer consultant. This thing gives us the ability to train this curriculum nationally, but also gives us the ability for any of you that are interested in becoming certified trainers for us to train you and get certified. Great conversation this morning. I certainly appreciate it. And I learned a lot of things. I probably learned the most outside of the FPA, the AFP, the Authentic Fatherhood Partnership. And the question that I asked in the end was getting fathers to participate and how do we get them to participate. And certainly one of the things that we want to do in Man Cave and Pops is we want to be able to create or to develop trainers that can step into the spaces that we need. So, for example, you're not going to find me really stepping into a space and being able to connect. When Joel was talking about the machismo and talking about that culture, that's a space for which I have my own understanding for, but it's not a culture. It's not what I lived. You're not going to see me stepping into the space of Native Americans and on the reservation, because yes, I can talk about the Nurturing Fathers program from a general standpoint, but being able to make that connection with them, there has to be something more. So we want to make sure that we are raising up individuals, raising up men that are able to step into that space. And we might get a chance to talk about it a little bit more when we start talking about the implementation and carrying this forward and the work that Man Cave and Pops is doing. When Michael stood before you and Edward and really talked about the work that Man Cave and Pops is doing and the direction that we're going, like, we're not playing around with the direction. And we are very intent on moving together and really reaching not only the state but nationally in the work that we do. And I believe that the work that we do, of course, Man Cave started in the Head Start program, in the 0 to 5 program, and is now stepping out of that space. Even though we want to focus and continue because that's where home is for us, we need to step out of that space because we have fathers that have, kids all the way up to 24. I think that's about the limit to where we go, but are still connecting with their kid. My son is 26. I never stopped being a father. It's just that the issues become different, and addressing them is different. So we're going to take a look really kind of at the Inside Nurturing Fathers program and really have some conversation around it. So here's my question. And Thurston, you may need to get a microphone for this. Here's my question. How is parenting learned? Life? But how's parenting learned? Because we didn't get a book. When our child was born, the nurse didn't hand us a book and say, here you go, read it. How's parenting learned? Thurston's got the microphone back there if anybody.
Take one.
Modeling of parents.
Modeling of your parents. Okay. Example from who? Example from your surroundings, example of your own parents? Okay.
I said visually because for me, like some people said, my parents never really said I love you, but I knew they loved me. by how they showed me. And to this day, I tell my boys every day that I love them. But when it was from my parents, I just saw how they took care of me, what they did for me. And even for people that don't have parents, they have those role models that they can look up to. Because even as little kids, as babies, we learn visually. Like they said, they have a study where they'll have like a baby looking at a dad and then reacting to how a dad is, and they listen more. And that's what I believe. Visually, you can learn that way, and of course, there's other methods too.
Okay. So, yep, visually. Any other comments? Life, your own parents, how parenting is learned.
I'll say you have to add visually, auditory, kinesthetic.
Right, because especially dad, that paternal nurturance is kinesthetic. It's physical in nature. Yeah, it's physical in nature. Yep.
Also by losing someone. We lost my father-in-law 5 months ago, and even though we were not that close, he always acted like a father figure. And he teach me a lot just by sitting next to him and listening to each other. So now that he's gone, I can just go back into where was taught and learn from it.
Okay. So we have examples of how parenting is learned. In the Nurturing Fathers program, this is one of the first places we start with our guys in the group, and we talk about that experience that you gained when we were all children and we were in our parents' home. And so those experiences that came from being parented ourselves, and they fed into us. And two things happened. Out of that experience, we developed some self-concept of ourselves, basically cognitive. What did you think about yourself? No matter what happened, good, bad, or indifferent, there was something that you thought about yourself while you were in the home, whether you came from a single-parent home, whether you had two parents in the home, whatever that scenario that you were in, where you were parented, you gained experiences off of that. That fed into you what I thought about myself. And then that what I thought about myself, you also had the effective, how do I feel about myself? My self-esteem. So your self-esteem can be high, your self-esteem can be low, but it can be driven off of that. If you come out of an abusive home, you might have been in the standpoint where I really don't think much about myself, and my self-esteem is low. That then kicks out to your behavior. As a matter of fact, there's probably not a scenario where we couldn't talk to a father who might be having some struggles, and we couldn't go back and pin it somewhere in there. That experience either came from the home that you came from and what you thought about yourself. You could be in that position in terms of what you thought about yourself or how you feel about yourself. What say you?
Well, it just made me think about, as a father, I'm always doubting myself, right? I could do this better, right? I think I heard somebody tell me I'm a good dad, but I want to be a better dad, right? But I have low self-esteem because of my childhood. I love my dad, but I was never good enough, I was like, hey, I caught the ball. Yeah, but you didn't catch it right. Okay, well, I did. I got a B in school. Yeah, but you didn't get an A. And so, and I know my dad loved me, and in his way, he was trying to push me to do better, but it really affected my self-esteem. So as I became a parent, it was never good enough. I couldn't do good enough. And it's that voice we tell ourselves in our head, right? It's either we're doing good or we're doing bad. But the more we hear those negative thoughts, and I know that's in the book as well, the more we hear that, the more we believe it, right? So were we influenced as a child? Were we influenced in these areas? And until we address that and say, okay, I'm going to change this negative thought to, you know what, I am involved. I am doing this. I am doing that. Because the more negative thoughts you have about yourself, the lower self-esteem you have, and you're not ever going to be happy. You're not going to ever be satisfied as far as fulfilled. And you want to be at a place where I'm enjoying my time with my child. So that's what comes to mind.
Thoughts on that with my floating microphone? Oh, you're going to be up and about. You're going to get your steps in.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, any comments on that? That's how parenting is learned. Where you came from, how you felt about yourself, what you thought about yourself. So when we talk about Nurturing Fathers program and the importance of father involvement, there's three areas that we're looking at. We're looking at positive child development, strength of family dynamics, and empowered fathers. It's interesting because I always like to look at, because I came out of Head Start, out of early childhood education and talking about positive child development and really setting a foundation. And I like to be able to connect everything because there are things that we are going through now as adults that were built in us because of that connection, or that, I like to call it a pyramid. And so if I think about this pyramid and the way that this pyramid looks, and the same pyramid I'm getting ready to describe for a child in terms of how we should bring a child up is the same pyramid that is being applied in your life. Every child needs a foundation of 4 things. All right, they need to be seen, they need to be soothed, they need to be safe, they need to be secure. Mm-hmm. So we need to see them. How do you see them? You know, how do you see your child? I think it was Michael that talked about when his father said, "Hey, how are you doing?" You said good, that he just didn't accept good. I do that with my own son. "Hey, how'd your day go?" "Good." Give me 4 things that define good. It's generating a conversation. It's, I see you. I see you. It could be, for us, it could be high five.
Yep.
Pat on the butt. Quick hug. Just a little nudge. Mm-hmm. It's going to be different than mom, but you know what? That little short burst of physical touch is saying that I see you. Mm-hmm. So not only do you need to see them, but they need to be soothed. When I talk about soothed, I'm talking about emotional intelligence. I'm talking about empathy. I'm talking about our ability. As Joel said, hey, when I talk to my daughter, I come down to my daughter's level. That's empathy. I'm putting myself in the position that you're in. I'm feeling the same emotions. Basically, it's like looking in a mirror. And for us, sometimes as men, that's hard to do. It's hard for someone to be in a position and me to now mirror what it is that they're going through, to mirror and to understand it. So they need to be seen, they need to be soothed. They need to be safe. So what is safe? Okay, safe is easy. You put a roof over my head, clothes on my back, food on the table, shoes on my feet. I have a place. You know how it is when you were growing up. Maybe it wasn't you, maybe it was just me. So when I had issues, or if I got in trouble, or something was going on, there was something about crossing the threshold in my home that just made me feel safe. Nobody can get to me. I'm here. I'm safe. Now, safe and secure are 2 different things. 2 different things. Safe is my ability to step into the environment. Secure is my ability to fall apart in that environment. I had a bad day. Things aren't going well. I can fall apart in that environment, and I know that somebody's got me. Mom and dad are there to see me, to soothe me, to have conversation with me. I'm safe and I'm secure. That's what they need. And they need that from both mom and dad. Historically, it used to be that mom did the seen and soothe. That was the nurturing part, the empathetic. And dad did the safety and security. All 4 of them, both of them have to provide all 4. And then once you're seen, soothed, safe, and secure, guess what happens? Now your child can become assertive. What is assertive? I can begin to speak up for myself, and I can begin to speak up for other people, and I can do it in a respectful way without hurting somebody's feelings. Okay, the simple thing to explain that, mom is in the kitchen and she says, "Hey, you want ice cream?" And the kid says, "I want ice cream." "You want chocolate?" Because that's all you're going to get is chocolate. And if the kid is assertive and he doesn't want chocolate, he can say, I don't want chocolate, I like vanilla. And then mom can respond from that, or dad can respond for that. It's their ability to be able to speak up for themselves. They become assertive. They understand what their boundaries are and parameters, especially for boys. They need to operate in that. So now you're seen, soothed, safe, and secure. You become assertive. Now you become competent. You begin learning about yourself. You begin putting yourself in a position to want to learn. For those of you, anybody in here familiar? Yeah, there's some because there's Head Start that's familiar with conscious discipline. You know that we operate, look at Lauren, she's conscious discipline queen. She knows it. We operate from 3 areas of our brain. All right, cerebral, the midbrain, which is the limbic, prefrontal cortex. Cerebral is all about safety and security. So if a child is running, is hitting, screaming, yelling, it's the brain. They might not be able to communicate it, but it's the brain telling you, what's the question? I don't feel safe. They're operating from that portion of the brain. When you get past that portion and they hit into the limbic system, that's where relationship is. So now if we're not communicating, we're not on the same page, or I'm using hateful words, or I'm doing the best that I can, I'm not even speaking. It's the brain saying, I don't have relationship. Now, if I move beyond safety and security in a relationship and I have those two things, why? Because I'm seen, soothed, safe, and secure. Now it moves to the prefrontal cortex. I have everything that I need to begin asking questions, to having a desire to learn. Seen, soothed, safe, secure, assertive, competent. Now I can determine purpose and have purpose. And once I have those things, I understand who I am. And when I understand and begin understanding who I am, I understand who you are. When I understand me and you, I understand us. That's for kids. What does that look like for adults? For adults, we have that pyramid. That pyramid has been built. We spend our entire lives looking for somebody that has a pyramid that's built like us. And a lot of times we may come across somebody whose pyramid isn't built like us. And do we try to fix that pyramid, or do we keep it moving? The fact of the matter is that if mom and dad specifically, doesn't help in building the pyramid, you allow the kid to build the pyramid themselves. And when they build the pyramid, it's out of whack. Mm-hmm. So child development, positive child development, having that father interact. Strengthening family dynamics and empowering fathers. I know, Edward, you've done a lot of that in your work. Strengthening family dynamics, what to you does that look like?
To me, it's having both mom and dad understanding that both of their roles are important. And something came to mind earlier when it's like, I think normally when dads, or this is what you've traditionally heard, dads will see their son running, they fall in the script, and come on, fine, you're gonna. Mom will be like, let me see. But see, what I've learned is dad can help create that emotional intelligence to recognize, I see that you fell. Mm-hmm. I don't have to go over there and baby you like, Mom, but are you okay? Like acknowledging you hurt yourself, right? So what is that feeling? It's painful. Are you okay? All right, you're able to come up, Yeah, okay, good. Because now the child knows that you're there, mm-hmm. right? So when I think of that family dynamics, it's like both mom and dad can do both nurturing, mm-hmm. both can be, providing a safe space where they can take, chances, mm-hmm. safe chances, right? Because that's normally what dads do. But that's what I think of when strengthened family dynamics is both mom and dad understand their roles and bringing both to the child.
By strategic parenting. That's what he described. By strategic parenting. I always like to say that dad is the period to mom's sentence. Mom is the sentence, dad is the period. And, kids have a tendency, you go to your dad and your dad will say, well, what'd your mama say?
Yeah.
And if your mama said it, okay, then there it is.
Yeah.
He's the period to the sentence.
Yeah.
But it's by strategic parenting. It's making sure that you are communicating, the two of you are communicating, and moving in the same direction as it comes to that child, whether it be girl or boy, moving in that same direction. So you're strengthening family dynamics. I heard it say once, this is how most fathers look in the home when you put it to an equation. Everybody knows that 1 + 1 + 1 equals 3. In some cases, when dad's not there, it's 1 + 1 + 1 equals 2. Because dad can be in the household, but we don't include him. So it's not inclusive. Think about your home. When you think about your home, if I were to step into your home, could I step into the home and go, wow, this home is father aware? Now, you would think that father aware where he's there, but is the mom even aware that he's there? Is it father aware? Is it father friendly? Meaning, are both of them doing things together for that child, for not only for the benefit of the child, but for the benefit of each other? Yeah. Is it father friendly? Yeah. And then is it father inclusive? Do we make decisions as a family in terms of moving forward? And sometimes it's 1 + 1 + 1 equals 2. And so we want to make sure that fathers are empowered and understand that you are a part of that unit. You're a part of that unit. So key components of the program, we do that through workshops, we do that through peer support, we do that through hands-on activity. I'm fortunate to be still in Head Start because we do a lot of hands-on stuff with dads and their kids, but the crux of what we do is the workshops and the peer support, is being able to come together, tear down some walls, and have some authentic conversation.
Absolutely. And we got a glimpse of that with the father panel.
Yeah, we got a glimpse of that.
It's working, and that's what we need to do, is to continue this with the workshops, continue with the peer support.
Right.
Because then when the fathers come through And what do they want to do? I want to support other dads. I want to support other fathers. So it's continuing the momentum.
Yeah, yeah. And we talked a lot about authenticity and being authentic and moving in the direction. You know, when Edward and I first together and even determined, wow, we're going to move this thing together because we're both on the same page. We both have the same vision. We both care about the same things. And that connection came, we were riding around in a golf cart. We were at a golf tournament that was put on by Greater Phoenix Urban League, and we were riding around in a golf cart, just mindlessly riding around in a golf cart, stopping every now and then to talk to people that were competing, and we were having just real, true conversation for about an hour. We'd stop and, go get something to drink, get back in the golf cart, continue to talk. And by the time it was done, it was like, man, I got a connection to you, you got a connection to me. Can we move this thing forward? So those workshops and that peer support, having that peer support. I was having a conversation with Darius before I came up here. Darius was mentored and taken through the program by Thurston, and I could see it, I could hear it as he was having conversation and talking about it. But again, it was me having poured into Thurston in the first group, and now it just carries on, and that's what we want. So those workshops and that peer support. But then the curriculum overview. This is where we're going to talk to you a little bit. With the curriculum overview, we talk about the foundations of fatherhood, strengthening relationships, nurturing child development. I've talked about nurturing child development a little bit. But this is really kind of I call it the boot camp of the program.
Absolutely.
This is the first 3 weeks, which are the most difficult, I think, 3 to get through. Why? Because the first one begins with the roots of fathering. Like, what was your relationship like with your father? Because it's going to have an impact on you right now, today. The good, the bad, and the indifferent is going to have an impact on you. So what was that relationship like, the roots of fathering? I want to share something with you, because we talked about, Edward and I have always talked about just, being transparent and having conversation around this, because we've gone through this program and facilitating in this program. So, my relationship with my father, when I was born out of wedlock. My father was in Vietnam when I was born. As a matter of fact, I see pictures of my mom and dad when they got married, and I was 3 years old, and I'm just there in the wedding, eating cake and doing whatever. But that was the first interaction, that I had with my dad. Now, I love my dad. Great man. And I say he was a great man. He went into the Air Force as an airman, nothing on the sleeve. He was in the military. He was in the Air Force for 28 years. When he left, he was a Chief Master Sergeant, the highest rank that you can get for a non-commissioned officer. He's part of the 1% club. Only 1% of men that enter into as an airman leave at the highest rank as a non-commissioned officer. Only 1%. I saw the discipline, the work, things that he put into getting to that place. And that was about getting to the place for the benefit of his family. But there was also something that went along with that, which meant that sometimes he had to be disconnected. There were times where we were at a waiting wives base because he was at a place that we couldn't go. When he was in South Korea, we were in a waiting wives base in Salina, Kansas. My role models became my coaches. But he always pushed and always wanted the best for his kids. But he pushed. You were talking about baseball. I remember a couple of things with my father. I remember played high school. I was in Panama when we played, and I was playing high school ball. And I remember I was pitching, and this game went 12 innings. I thought my arm was about to fall off, but I was doing what I had to do for us to win. We won. And they put the ice on me and all that, and I saw my mom, and my mom was like, "Are you okay? How are you feeling?" That's maternal nurturance about your being. My dad's response was, "You set the bar high. Anything less than that now is unacceptable." So now it's that push. And as I grew up, the one thing I knew is I was always pushing. But I never quite had the connection with my father, that bond. I didn't quite have that. Couldn't figure it out. Couldn't figure out what it was that was going on. Some time passed after I even got to the city of Phoenix, began working in this program, and when I began working in the Head Start program, I recognized it. You weren't there the first 3 years of my life. We didn't get the bond. You didn't hold me on your chest as a baby for us to make that connection. I didn't hear your voice for us to make that connection. We didn't bond, and it had an impact and an effect on our relationship. So much so that I soon realized that and went and had a conversation with him and said, hey, it's not your fault. You were in the military doing what you needed to do for our country and for our family, so we need to spend some time connecting. And we did spend some time connecting. My father passed about 9 years ago. And when he did, and I got to go through his information, all of his stuff, I found this letter. I keep this letter with me. This letter is dated November of 1965. My father was in Vietnam. This was a letter that he was writing to his father. He began the letter starting off, Dad, I hope that you're doing well. I don't know, there's a lot going on in Vietnam, and I don't know if this is going to be my last letter to you. There may be others to come. But the reason that he wrote this letter is he wrote this letter to defend who I was as a 1-year-old, as his son, because I came out of wedlock. His own father didn't believe that I was his grandson. And so he was battling for me even then. But it kind of put the pieces together of the fact that how important it is to bond with your child, to be connected to your child, because it has an impact. What did that do to my relationship with my son? When my son was born, the first thing when I found out that it was a boy, I just cried. I made sure I was in the operating room, the delivery room. When he was born, doctor was like, she gave him to me first. Gave him to me first. I remember my sister taking me home that night to change, to come back. I was overwhelmed, overcome, just boo-hooing. And she said, why are you crying? She said, I know you're happy. And I said, part of me is happy, but the other part of me is, can I be enough of what he needs to raise him to be a respectful man in this society? Am I enough for that? And she said, you are enough. And the reason that you are enough is because God is on your side, and I know how you feel, and you will turn to him for everything. My parents were there. Yeah, they were there. And my father pressed so hard. Everything that I didn't get from him, my son got. My son got. And I appreciated that. But I could see that generations. But it was me to be able to make the difference. So when we talk about the foundations of fatherhood, you are impacted. And a lot of fathers probably don't participate in this program because we work on your father wound. Mm-hmm. Every man in here has a father wound, whether you believe it or not. I didn't believe I had a father wound until I went back and took a look at it and said, I found the problem. I found the problem. And we help you fix that father wound. Sometimes that father wound is forgiveness. Sometimes that father wound is going and having a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ed just competed in a bodybuilding competition a few months ago. And one of the things he said for him, it was healing. Because the connecting with his family, connecting with his father, that connection. You want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, because I shared earlier that, my boy had passed, and, I didn't have the greatest relationship with my father, and that was his only grandson, My dad's Edward Casillas, I'm Edward Casillas, and my son was Edward Casillas. So when he passed, something changed in me, right? And I remember my dad being there for the funeral, but he didn't really come down any other time. So all of a sudden I got bitter again. I had forgiven him for a lot of the things and growing up, but became bitter again. And so the journey of the bodybuilding was really just to try to keep me sane and push myself in the gym and all of that just to deal with the pain, because it's easier, I think, for men, at least in my case, to deal with physical pain than it is the emotional and mental pain. But the last show that I did, it was healing because my 2 daughters were there. Michael came all the way down from San Diego in the middle of the night to be there, so he was there. And my dad was there. He'd been to 3 events in my life. And it was my 8th grade graduation. I remember he was there. My son's funeral, and then this bodybuilding competition. So for me coming off a stage and seeing him there, seeing my daughters there, seeing Michael there, for me, I was able to just heal and let the bitterness go that I had just built up for these past couple of years, because it was still affecting my relationship with my daughters as well. But it never, fatherhood's impact, even he's 70-something years old, I'm 52, it still has an impact on me, right? But I was able to finally heal and let stuff go and be able to accept this new season, this new stage, this new what we're doing. And I realized then I did the best I could for my boy. I did the best I could for my daughters. And I'll continue to do the best I can for them and my grandkids as well, because now I'm a grandpa, right? So there's an influence there. But the impact of fatherhood, the foundation of fatherhood, it does go all the way back to trying to get my dad to approve of me. And now I get calls all the time. I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. And I'm accepting of it, but I needed that back then too, a little bit, So I'm still opening up to that. But the healing really came from the forgiveness and moving forward and saying to myself, Dad, you did the best you could too. He was in Vietnam, so he went through some stuff. So I let that go.
Edward said something that just jumped out at me. Every child wants to hear their father especially say, I love you, I'm proud of you, and I support you. Those three things. When we talk about, again, the foundations of fatherhood and strengthening the relationships, that's what they want to hear from us. They want that support. They want to know that Dad is there. How many kids do you know, athletes? I'll give you an example. Everybody knows who Ray Lewis is, right? Ray Lewis got to the position that he was in because his father wasn't present in his life. And he was always pushing and thinking that one day my father's going to show up to see me play. And so he always wanted to make sure that he was the best that he could be at that position that he played, because when his father showed up to see him play, what did he want to hear? I'm proud of you.
Proud of you. Yeah.
That's what he wanted to hear.
Absolutely.
His father didn't show up. But he pushed and he pushed and he pushed through high school, he pushed through college, he pushed to the NFL, always waiting to see that man show up.
Yeah.
So kids want that. They want that interaction. They want you there. They want to show off for you. They want to be seen.
One thing I want to say real quick is I remember making it a point to tell my kids that I was proud of them for who they are, not just what they accomplished.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. You should feel really good about that, but I like who you are. I love your heart. I love how, I told my boy, I think he was in the 6th grade, and there was a program at school where they would look after the kindergartners in the 1st grade, and I remember being at the school one day picking him up, and this dad comes up to me and goes, hey, are you Eddie Casillas' dad? I'm like, yeah, and he's got tears in his eyes. I'm like, uh-oh, what'd he do? And he said, your son did so much for my little boy. He was scared, he didn't like school, but he came and he was a big brother to him and mentored him and took care of him. And I was like, wow, I don't see that. I got to see, I don't like you, Dad stuff, right?
Yeah.
But that moment was so like, oh my gosh, this boy's got a good heart. I can see that. And so when I tell my kids I'm proud of them, I'm like, yeah, that's a great accomplishment. I think that's wonderful, and you should feel proud about yourself. But I'm proud of who you are, too. And I want you to know that no matter what, my love is unconditional, and I'm proud of the person you are.
Yeah. So the foundation of fatherhood, strengthen relationships in the Nurturing Fathers program is where we spend time in communication. We deal with 2 areas, power over, power to. The way that we communicate with the loved ones in our lives, do we communicate because we want power over, or do we communicate because we want power to? We want an actual a partnership. This is an interesting conversation that takes place in the Nurturing Fathers community and when we're in that environment, because a lot of fathers turn back and look and go, wow, I'm in this power over mode. And the power over mode sometimes causes issues for men because power over means I win. And so it becomes a win or lose situation. There are times where men will not take an issue to somebody because they know they can't win. Mm-hmm. So it's win-lose. If I'm a lose, I'm not going to take the situation to them. Then what happens? I suppress that emotion. And then when I suppress that emotion, it just continues to build up until it suddenly explodes again. And so we have some conversation around that and strategies that we can share so that it becomes win-win. It becomes power to. I'm giving power to because I want us to move forward together and communicating and understanding. We give different scenarios and go through and have those conversations, and the conversation is pretty interesting, but really developing effective communication and conflict resolution strategies.
And just real quick, as far as like the power over and power to, one of the things I've heard in the groups, power over is do what I said because I said it. Don't ask questions, right? Power to is I need you to do this, and this is why. Like, you know, if I'm saying, don't touch the stove, you're going to get burned. Just do what I tell you to do. Like, okay, but you're going to get burned, right? And sometimes you're like, okay, let's see, I told you.
Yeah.
But what we want to do with the power two is give them the ability to make healthy choices as they grow into, you know, adulthood. So, and if you do that as a partnership, power two, it's much easier to get those life lessons across. But power over, just do what I tell you because I said. That creates rebellion, and that's in the book.
And that's interesting that in terms of that's basically parenting or fathering with fear and violence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's that power over.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do what you tell me to do because that's the power over.
Yeah.
But guess what? When I get older,
Yeah.
I'm going to resent you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to like you. And there's going to come a point in time where I'm old enough to say, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm bigger than you now. What are you going to do about it? Right? Young bull, old bull stuff. Right? Well, calm down.
Yeah. So strengthening relationships. This is the program. It's 13 weeks. Again, starts off with the roots of fathering, self-nurturing skills. How do we nurture ourselves? How are you going to nurture the relationship that you're in and nurture a relationship with your children if you can't nurture yourself? What does that mean? How do you nurture yourself when you talk about health? This is an interesting conversation. We talk about health, and guys are like, well, I go to the gym, and I drink water. I try to drink a gallon of water, and I try to eat right. Yeah. Okay, well, what about when you have that little ache that says you need to go to the doctor? What about that? Are you getting your annual physical? You know, are you taking care of yourself? When someone in your life is saying, why don't you just go to the doctor? You know, you're sitting around walking with that pain, and a lot of times we're like, well, the pain will go away. It's just temporary, it'll go away. I've been there, I've done that, and thought the pain would go away. 6 months dealt with it, thought the pain would go away. Pain didn't go away. Pain manifested itself in a different way to the point that I had to go. And it was a setup. My sister's a nurse. She set me up. She's like, oh, let's go to urgent care. Because she knew urgent care couldn't do a damn thing for me. And while I was in urgent care, she was outside on the phone because she works for Dignity Health, and she was calling the emergency room. I'm bringing in my brother. Make sure you got space for him as soon as he comes out of his urgent care. Then I came back out and got in the car. I said, well, urgent care can't do anything for me. She's like, I know. That's why we're heading to the emergency room. And that's where we went. Long story short, stage 3 colon cancer. I had to address that immediately. And believe it or not, I was crazy enough being in the hospital when after they said, you've got some issues, and they're like, what do you want to do? You can go home and schedule an appointment with your primary, or you can stay here, see the doctor tomorrow, and we can do something about it. And my crazy self said, well, I think I'll go home and schedule. Both my wife and my sister were like, nope, you're going nowhere. This is where you are. And that was on a Sunday, and on Tuesday I was having surgery. So are you taking care of your health? How do you nurture yourself spiritually? How do you nurture yourself intellectually? How do you nurture your creativeness? How do you nurture those things? How do you just take care of your full self? Yeah. So we talk about that, and then we talk about the little boy within. Ooh.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I'll let you talk about that.
Okay, the little boy within, right? And really, we all have a little boy within, and we talked a little bit about it, you know, like what, did we get our needs met as that little boy when we were little? Did we get those needs met? And most of the time, we didn't get all of our needs met. So there's that little boy within that is trying to get those unmet needs met, right? And so if we could do that in a positive way or in a negative way, and those that have been through Nurturing Fathers, you know what I'm talking about, right? If you trying to get it in a negative way, there's alcohol, sex, all of those things that you're trying to get these needs met, but it's unhealthy, and it tears you down. Tears you up, messes you up. You can do it in a positive way. I mean, you can build a strong support network. You can, you know, go to church if that's your thing. If you want to read the Bible, whatever those things are to get those needs met, that little boy is always looking to get those nurtured. And so we need to nurture that little boy within and nurture ourselves and have self-care in order to take care of our children, in order to take care of others, because we can't take care of them properly if we're not taking care of ourselves. So there's always that little boy within needs his needs met. Yeah.
So those are the 3 toughest weeks, and then we get into actual nurturing and the power of nurturing. How do we father and father without fear and violence? How do we nurture our children, boy to girl? And we have fun in that section because I like to nurture, teach nurturance and teach the mind and the differences between the minds of boys and girls, and how to nurture that. We talk about discipline and fun and games. How do we use fun and games for discipline? And then nurturing that, the relationship. Creating teamwork, creating our home as if our home is just one big field and a game field and we are a team. And how are we going to prepare ourselves as a team? How are we going to practice? How are we going to enter the game and prepare for victory? What are the parameters? When you step on the field, you can do this. When you step off the field, you can't do this, but you can do this. And so handling it in that way. And we work our way all the way through the last 2, which is the time and the place for fathering. So how do we make that transition from work to home? How do we make that transition? I like to have conversations sometimes with professional athletes. How do you make that that transition from the field to home? And what does that look like?
Because there's that balance, right? It's a battle on the field. Your mindset. I mean, we as men, we can get into war mode, right? Like we got to get this done. We got to get this done. How do you set that aside? I mean, take the time. Is it the car ride home? Are you listening to music? Whatever that is. So you get home and you're fully available for your children.
Yep.
That balance.
And then we finally end up we started off with the father wound, we end up by healing the father wound. We start with a vision statement. We have every father give us a vision statement. What's the vision for you and the vision for your family? And then we get to the healing the father wound in the last chapter. We go back, pull that vision statement out, and look, would you change that vision statement? And they change the vision statement. Yeah. It changes because they've changed. So that's a little bit, that's the Nurturing Fathers program. But we also use a couple of things that I like that gives fathers an inside look. We also use evidence-based surveys. We use the AAPI, which is the Adult Adolescent Parenting Inventory. So we have them fill out, we do a before, we do an after. What does that tell? That tells us, gives us a look in terms of what are your expectations of your children. Sometimes fathers go too far and expecting, like some fathers or mothers especially, you'll hear this conversation, that's my friend. No, that's not your friend, that's your daughter. Or that's your son. So expectations. Like there are certain things as an adult that I don't need to share with you because you're not an adult. I don't need to put that on you. So what are the expectations of children? Empathy towards children's needs. How do you look at the use of corporal punishment and the way that you discipline? What does the parent-child role relationship look like and the child's power and independence? It gives us a snapshot into you, into the mind as a parent, into your knowledge of being a nurturing parent. It also gives us a snapshot into whether or not you're susceptible to child abuse and domestic violence. So AAPI, we have every guy take it that's going through. It's a before snapshot, and we do it afterwards, and then we're able to sit down with them.
Yeah, and that's a score between 1 and 10, and I think almost everybody scores down the middle when they first take. I mean, most men do, and then the scores improve at the end.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to see is that improvement, because you have an understanding of what those 5 constructs are based on all of those 13 chapters, those 13 weeks.
And those constructs help us as facilitators provide more services to address an issue. So if it's in that 1 to 3, the low range, so we might need to go over this session again, or we may need to recommend and send you a resource to someone that can further assist you. So 1 is about your knowledge, and then the NSCS is about your ability to apply the nurturance. So now we want to know about you, about your childhood, your spouse, your partner, your child, your family, your knowledge of nurturing parent, and then your utilization of parenting. So it gives us a snapshot into, okay, you've got this knowledge for nurturing. Now, how are you looking as it becomes to the application? And it also paints a picture of you to kind of tell you where you are, in this whole scenario of being a parent. Yeah. So the two of them work together. It's a document that we get that you fill out that we actually input into a computer system on parenting, nurturing parenting, and then it kicks out a report for us. Those techniques are all the facilitation techniques we use. It's very interactive discussion. So we try to create this space where everybody has room, where everybody can feel free to engage. We encourage dialogue. We want you to have a conversation. We're just facilitators there to facilitate that conversation. Experiential learning. We learn from one another in the experiences that
absolutely.
each one of us have been through. That empathetic guidance, and then the community building, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to build a community in that. Why don't you explain the affirmation circle?
The affirmation circle. Okay, this is something that that we do in the 5 Protective Factors training. So in the beginning of the training, we get everybody to write down something that they wish they would have heard when they were a child. Like, and we talked on that a little bit earlier. I'm proud of you, you know, I love you, whatever that is. So that's the beginning of the training, and I think we're in the 3rd day. So by the 3rd day, we've already built a relationship. You know, we've established that this is a safe place, and we asked for some volunteers to sit in a circle. And then we asked some other volunteers to stand around them, and we asked the volunteers that are standing outside of those that are sitting down to walk around and whisper one of those statements that they wrote down in the beginning. So, I love you, I'm proud of you. You know, it goes all the way around. And at first, everybody kind of giggles like, oh yeah, come on. By the time they get to the very end, everybody's thinking, man, I wish my dad would have told me this, or my mom, or whatever that is. And there's always somebody crying. And it's because we didn't hear those affirmations. A lot of us didn't hear those affirmations. And if you did, that's great. But most of us didn't. And then they switch places. Mm-hmm. And that is something we definitely want to try, you know, incorporate once we build that relationship. Because I didn't hear my dad say, you know, really proud of me until I was much older. But I would have loved to hear that. But so you close your eyes, and as they're whispering, you're imagining that. And it hits, sorry about that, but it hits your heart. And so that's the affirmation circle. Right. Affirmations that we need to hear to this day. That little boy within still needs to hear, I'm proud of you, son. You're doing a great job.
Yeah. The 3rd time I went through the Nurturing Fathers program, I learned something every time we did the affirmation circle. And when we were done, we were just passing around tissue because it was what we hadn't heard that we longed to hear. So different facilitation techniques to make sure that we are reaching everyone in sympathetic guidance. We want to meet you where you are. None of us is greater than the other. We're all coming here, you know, really to serve. And to serve who? To serve our families and to do a better job at serving our families, serving our children, serving our children's mother. But we need to do some things to build up and strengthen ourselves. Strategies, flexible scheduling. We meet dads where they are. Normally we're in the evenings from 6 to 8, kind of in that window. We bring them in, we feed them, and then we go into programming with peer outreach and then incentives. So this is a new thing that I'm doing with the Nurturing Fathers program right now, and I put the flyers out, and people think I'm crazy, but somebody said that they were here, they feel like they got bamboozled. I might be bamboozling somebody, but the fact of the matter is I got you in because I believe that once you get the information, it's rich. So you come to the Nurturing Fathers program, you get paid $25 a session. So $25 a session times the 12 sessions that you're in. Then when you complete the evaluation, that's another $25. And then when you've done your AAPI and your NSCS, the before and the after, that's another $25. And then when you give me a video promo, that's another $25. Basically, you can graduate and get a gift card for $400 for your participating in the program.
Not bad.
So if you come and go, well, the only reason I came to the program is for $400, okay. Because by the time you get to the end of the program, I'm going to guarantee you that you're going to say, well, the $400 really isn't the important thing. It's what I got out of it. So just incentives in the program.
And that makes a difference.
Measurable outcomes, they're all there. We see them with the AAPI. We see them with the NSCS. The greatest measurable outcomes, I think, for us is when we hear moms.
Yeah.
You know, when we hear moms call us, or when we hear them say, we hear women say, man, this is the greatest thing that like ever happened to him. He's changed. It's like night and day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like night and day. I can't even tell you how many that I've facilitated where it's like the Nurturing Fathers program and him going through the Nurturing Fathers program saved my marriage. We hear that.
And one thing I'm going to say too, and I don't know if we measure this, but we probably should, is the support system that's built among the fathers afterwards. Because it's continuing, right? I mean, it's continuing. I want to move forward. I want to keep doing this. And it builds that social connections that we desperately need.
Mm-hmm. Sustainability, funding diversification, collaborative partnerships, continuous evaluation. Again, this is part of Man Cave and Pops moving together. When you see the Man Cave and Pops logo that's there, it's not there because we've invited them into this space. It's there because we are working together for a greater cause. We are working together, like I said, not only to have an impact in Phoenix, the state of Arizona, but working together to have a national impact. I told Michael and Edward, I'm like, there's things that you guys have that I want. There's things that you guys have that I need. With regard to our program, with regard to Man Cave, there are things that we have, that each one of us have, that we want to pull from one another. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, but guess what? We lift up, we strengthen where we're weak in areas, but we lift one another up in those strengths and utilize those strengths to best serve us, but more importantly, to best serve fathers. So that's that collaborative partnership, the funding diversification. I always say we put the work in. I don't worry about the funding. That's not my first. The funding is going to come. Why? Because we are following a greater calling. And if this is the calling for each one of us that we believe it is the calling for, the funding is going to follow because we're going to continue doing the work. And then continuous evaluation. We're always evaluating what it is that we're doing. We do have some challenges. We talked a little bit today about overcoming stigmas, fostering engagement. And so we're going to make sure that we raise up and bring up men that can step into those areas to be able to engage. And then adapting to diversity, ensuring that the program is culturally responsive. And that's the biggest thing, is being culturally responsive. So we need to be able to step into that space. We're going to expand the reach. It can be replicated in communities. Like I said, in December, we go down to Tucson. We're already having some conversation and their interest for us coming up to Flagstaff. I'm meeting with a group of executives about taking this statewide in the Head Start program. We're the only Head Start program in the city of Phoenix and the state of Arizona out of the 8-9 grantees that's actually carrying out a fatherhood initiative. And so now they're looking at us to be the leaders. And so we can replicate the Authentic Fatherhood Partnership in this work. We can replicate it. Digital engagement. That's why you see Latricia back there that's helping us to do a better job with regard to digital engagement. And then advocacy and partnerships. It's a strength that Pops brings in, that advocacy, putting the partnership together. We have a vision, and the great thing about it is my vision is his vision, is his vision, is Michael's vision, and we have the same vision. So that vision tells us we're on the right path. We're on the right path.
And the truth of the matter is, and we were talking about this earlier, like I met you, 7 years ago? Mm-hmm. And we were talking about stuff there. And then I hadn't seen you for several years. Your vision stayed the same. Mine stayed the same. Michael stayed the same. And now we're coming together. Right. And I really believe there's others out there. There's other fathers, other agencies, communities, whatever that is, that's got that vision. We just all need to connect.
Yeah.
We need to make this happen.
Yeah, yeah. So we have that vision. My vision next to this, after expanding, is now how do we, because one of the things that community services, one of the things that we like to do with regard to human services is how do we take the human services, of which that's what these are in this fatherhood program, and how do we step into the faith-based community? Mm-hmm. Because just as we're doing this work, there are men in the faith-based community that struggle, that need this. How do we step into that reality? How do we step into that environment? So that's it. That's a little inside look at the Nurturing Fathers program. There's the team that's up there. You can hit us up, azmancave.org. There's Michael and there's Edward. And the website's coming up, right?
Michael?
I
think it's up, right? Or I mean, it's going to be up soon, but our emails are up, I think.
Yeah, the website, the emails. Yeah, just reach out to us. We all love the work that we do, and we love to talk about it and wanting to expand and to partner. So just don't fear reaching out to us and thinking of new ways to reach fathers. I asked the question, and I think I got like 3 or 4 different ways, to reach fathers, and guys coming up and saying, "Let me give you the real answer." We talked a little bit about hip hop and how we can get into that community. We talked a bit about the Native American community. We've heard with regard to the Hispanic community and how we can tap in. So we know how we can tap in. Now we just have to lift up men to be able to tap into that community, and we need to support them as they tap into that community.
Absolutely.
Questions, comments, issues, concerns? All right, let's transition.
We got a question here.
You got a question? To
okay.
add. All right.
some parenting classes with wife. We do soccer with kids together. We've been going to internet safety classes for the kids. So as many as she can schedule, we try to attend together. And in the beginning of the main cave, when I started attending, some of the women show up with the husbands. And we were kind of like, it says men on the, right? Invitation. What's going on? So we didn't take it well. But going back on time, I feel like if in somehow we can get men and women involved on the main cave, maybe in a secondary base, it will open doors.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
We got you. We got
That's it.
you. So one of the things that we're going to be doing, Booker T is where we're actually going to start it, in the Roosevelt School District, Murphy School District. We're going to go up to the Fowler School District. We're going to do some what we call Pops Talk Cafes. I got that from Pops, about the resources and the needs of both mom and dad. We'll have the Nurturing Fathers program, which will be for the fathers. But we also have a program for the moms called Moms Understanding Dads. So now we can run them at the same time. And then they run kind of parallel. So now the two of them, the subject matter, have something to talk about in between the weeks, because it's one, Nurturing Fathers, me going through this, and then Moms Understanding Dads. I can't tell you how many guys I've heard from and how many, when they understand paternal nurturance and maternal nurturance, how it enables them or enhances their communication. And now I understand. Now mom understands why I'm flinging that child all the way up in the air and catching them. They understand that. Now mom understands when she comes home and dad's on the roof and the child's like, hey, I'm on the roof too. So it's those things.
Yeah.
All right.
How are dads referred to your program?
Dads are referred to our program. So we have azmancave.com, and they go in, and .org. So they go in there. They can hit us up that way. We've got resource fairs. I think we're at every resource fair that we possibly think of. As a matter of fact, we were out at the kickball tournament that the National Guard was putting on. I can't even tell you how many hits we got off of that, where guys want to come in and run and be in the Nurturing Fathers program. So for the most part, it's us getting out to these resource fairs or connecting through us, our Facebook page, or our website, or just simply connecting through our Head Start programs that way. So there's multiple channels for them to connect, or just referrals. We've made some connections with Atlantic Celtic Properties. So we're at a couple of properties, a large apartment complexes, where they've contacted us and said, can you bring this programming into the property? So we're doing the community on-site in the property. We're referring guys to those properties that need apartments and things like that. So it's just us out beating the streets, working with one another.
What's the eligibility criteria?
Eligibility criteria is 0 to 24, not 0 to 5. If you have someone that's, a daughter or son, up to 24, and you're a dad, and that's pretty much it. You're a dad. You're a male role model.
Male role model, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, so first off, I just want to give the thanks to both of you guys, and for the opportunity as dads. I just want to give the thanks again, you know what I mean? And if we have any veterans in here, I just want to say Happy Veterans Day for those that served, and, to your guys' dad. And you were talking about your story about with your dad, and we were touching on how for the ones that have and or had dads in their lives, that simple little, hey, I love you, I'm proud of you, you know what I mean? Those are things that I take to heart, that I didn't have that. But I had older brothers, and I'm the youngest of 8. So, excuse my French, but I know how to take an ass whooping. I think that's what drove me to the military. But anyways, I didn't have that, and that was something that I was looking for. But that's, again, like you were saying, pushed me to do the things that, to take me places that I didn't think I would ever make as a kid that didn't have a dad. So, that being said, I now look at my little one, and, she's a girl, but at the same time, I think she's gonna, in my eyes, she's gonna be the little tomboy growing up in there, you know what I mean? Because I think she's more attached to me now. So I just wanted to give thanks to you guys and the program and the Fatherhood and all the dads that are there. Like you said, I'm gonna use your words, there is no start and stop when it comes to this.
Yep.
Because you're seeing it right here, and for the other dads, that outside of this, I continue that path, because I choose to.
Yep.
Thanks again.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else?
All right, so we will, what do we got? Where's Jennifer? We have transition?
Yes, you have a break.
Back there, we have transition, about 10-minute break, 10, 15-minute break, and we'll transition to our practitioners.
Yes, sir.
5-minute break?
5 minutes.
5-minute break, wow, yeah, cut it down.
5 minutes.
Oh, what's going on, boss man?
Oh, let's see, I got to get my other one. Gentlemen. All right. So now we have the last portion of our summit today around the practitioners, the guys that are actually out there in the field doing the work, meeting with fathers, and really want to talk to you this afternoon about, your successes, your failures, the challenges, things that you're seeing as we move forward. Fatherhood is becoming more and more, and addressing father issues is becoming more and more prevalent in not only in the community but across the country, and we need to be ready. And so you're coming from different spaces, different places, and we want to have some conversation and begin generating conversation around that. So just introduce us, introduce yourself, where you're coming from. You can give me a little snapshot about yourself, starting with Kevin.
My name is Kevin Dancy. I'm a father support educator with Man Cave. I also, through the City of Phoenix, I work as a caseworker. My experience is casework management, also as a teacher, home visitor. I'm a father and a grandfather, so now I'm at Tata status.
Hello. Thurston M. Smith, Mr. Amazing, because every day is an amazing day. Father support educator. Virgo, father of 2 twins, teenager. I do amazing stuff. What else can I say? I'm just amazing.
All right, Mr. Amazing. Alex.
I'm Alex Cadenas. I'm 15 plus years I'm about as a caseworker. Started my career with Head Start as a preschool teacher, and now in the administration, but I'm also a facilitator with the Man Cave, done marriage and parenting certified, and working with dads in the Nurturing Fathers program, and currently working in North Phoenix with Dad Talks. So a lot of good things happening.
My name is Leondis Fuller, and I am the supervisor / case manager with South Phoenix Healthy Start. I'm also the founder of Future Incorporated, Future standing for Fathers Uniquely Thriving to Understand Responsibilities in Education. I've been in the Phoenix area for now going on 5.5 years, and my whole goal is to make sure no fathers are cheated out of having a relationship with their children.
I'm Neil Tift. I work for Native American Father and Families Association. I'm a birth father of 1. I'm an adoptive father of 2. I'm a grandfather of 16. I'm a godfather of 3. And my wife and I have been foster parents for 29 years, and I don't know how many of those. But we're still doing foster care and still really enjoy it. My work is working with Native fathers and their families on reservations and in urban areas. And we just got our first grant to work with adolescents struggling with substance abuse disorder and suicide. So we're going to be expanding our program at NAFA to bring it to other Native communities.
All right. So first of all, thank you for your participation and your insight. And we will hit you with some of these questions. So the first question out of the gate, how do you encourage fathers to recognize and embrace the critical role they play in their children's lives? I'm going to leave it up to anyone to get started. So I'll repeat the question. How do you encourage fathers to recognize and embrace the critical role they play in their children's lives?
I guess I'll go ahead and start. I'll go ahead and start it off. One thing that I noticed is the education portion. From hearing the fathers speak, they learn how to father from their father. If their father wasn't there, they learn from the outside, the community, which got the information from TV, got the information from, telephone. Someone told them, and then they run with that information. So my biggest thing is giving them the education about what it is to be a father. So I'm asking specific questions about, like, what type of relationship do you want to have in your household with your partner? What type of relationship do you want to have with your kids? And understanding that I'm a spiritual person, so there is certain rules of the land that we should be obeying by. So I'm a very spiritual person, so finding what their spirituality is and sometimes going back to their spirituality and religious texts and pulling that information out and seeing what it says, what it is to be a father. And then tying that back into the information and walking it down from there where it says that to be a father. One of the other scriptures, and just when the church in the Bible, it talks about, how a house is built off wisdom. So how can you be trying to father when you don't have the information about what a father is, what a father does, and the father's role inside the home?
One of the things that I do as a former caseworker is reach out to every dad and just meet them halfway and get to know them, build that rapport, but at the same time help them understand where they're at, and like we talk about in our Nurturing Fathers curriculum is help themselves in terms of transforming themselves in order to transform their next generation instead of transferring what they have. And so one of the things that I like to do is network and just start small steps, networking within different school districts just to get a feeling for how dads are feeling out there. When I started doing Dad's Night Out at one of the districts, there's a lot of pushback from moms because they wanted to be there, but dads would shut down. So what I did is we're having a Dad's Night Out and no women come. It's male only, and there's a lot of people upset, but that's sometimes you gotta make critical decisions to have dads be able to be vulnerable, like Marion had mentioned, but at the same time have that courage to share some of that. Like some of my groups, I always talk about, just think about your community. How many men in this community, like in South Phoenix, are hurting? Just think about that. How many men out there? So whenever you see another man, look at them in the face, in the eyes, and just say, how you doing? Sometimes that makes a difference, you know? And so be present. And so just encourage that, you know, just taking it day by day. So it's important. It's important to recognize every man out there and understand that they have that little boy in them, and sometimes they're hurting. That little boy is hurt.
Thank you. Well, a lot of times I like to let a man know or father know that no one is born a perfect father. We have programs such what we all are a part about to learn how to be a better father. So one of the first questions that I ask men is, what type of relationship did they have with their dad? A very large percentage of the men that I've been working with over the years will say, I didn't really even know my dad, or he left when I was at an early age, or he was an alcoholic or a drug addict, or he was in prison. That lets me know that many men that we work with have an invisible image within themselves of what a real father is. So they're seeking to learn tools and what it takes to be a father. But we have to get past the barriers that they have within themselves that keeping them from acknowledging who they really are and what type of dad they want to be. So to get them to continuously come to the various fatherhood programs is real key. But we can't come in a judgmental form to make them feel that they're inadequate as a man, inadequate as a husband, inadequate as a father. So getting them to see the rites of passage of where we go from infanthood, boyhood, teenhood, manhood, husbandhood, then fatherhood. When they can understand those different stages and realize they became a father at the time when they should have been a teenager. And get them to recap and see, what is it that I need to do to get myself on the right track? And that's easily done by saying, let me work with you.
Anybody else?
I have a couple slides. I'm a parent educator, so I've worked with dads for over 30 years. And I think, can we, Jessica, can we, is the slideshow ready? Hello.
Just give you a thumbs up.
Boink, boink, boink. Okay, next slide, please. Yes, next slide. Okay. What I do when I'm teaching the dads and the moms is culturally, motherhood, moms recognize that they're a mom typically when she hears she's pregnant or the baby's born. For dads, it's a much broader clique when we identify as a father. We might hear that our wife or our girlfriend is pregnant, but that doesn't necessarily mean that guy's thinking I'm a dad, especially if he didn't have a dad and he doesn't really know how to define it. So for fathers, that idea of I'm a dad is a broader time for them to identify as a father. So what we can do is help them determine that, say, yeah, you are a dad. Can we go to the next slide, please? So here's how we need to do when we're dads. These guys obviously don't want to bring home the wrong baby food for mom because it's not cool. Next slide, please. This shows that we, as dads, how many labels we might have. And there clearly can be 3, 4, or 5 times as many. But it's helping men identify what do you see your role as a dad, and how do you want to fulfill that, and how do you work that out with the mom, especially if you're parenting in the same household. Because we work with dads who are not necessarily living with mom, but wanting to be involved. Next slide, please. There are two big differences. If you study across all cultures, two big differences between maternal instincts and paternal instincts. One of those instincts, I'm trying to read it. Number one.
Fathers
Oh,
tend to play with their children,
right.
using the bodies more than mothers do.
When dads engage with their kids, we roughhouse, tickle, wrestle, we do contact sports, we go outside. Dads across cultures play with our children, with their bodies. Moms tend to use an object when she's interacting with a preschool child. A lot of times, dads, we just use our bodies, and that's it. The second distinction is that paternal instincts, it's not conscious, but a lot of times when we're interacting with our kids, we're focusing on the future. We're preparing our kids for what's to come. If a mom plays Uno or Candyland or some game with her child, she lets the child win. Dad plays, and he doesn't let the child win. And mom goes, oh, stop being a jerk. Let the 4-year-old win once in a while. He's trying to teach his child to be a good loser, because being a good loser is essential to being a mature, healthy adult. So a lot of times when we're playing with our kids or interacting with our kids, we might not recognize it, but we're focusing on the future. And when moms recognize that, then they sort of lighten up on us and say, oh, okay, as long as it's safe and healthy, that's a paternal instinct that's a little different. Next slide, please.
Over centuries, the role of fathers in studies, cultures, has been as
Oh, yeah.
protectors, providers, and
Disciplinary. Yeah. If you look at any studied culture over thousands of years, those are the not roles of men, but roles of fathers. Protector, provider, and disciplinary. Let's look at protector. Next slide, please. That when from starting off with child-proofing, baby-proofing our home to all the things we do, one of the key roles that healthy fathers see is I'm going to protect my children. In the early days, when there were marauding tribes, or we'd protect them from fires, or we'd protect them from the animals that drag the infant away from the fire. Fathers, for thousands and thousands of years, that was our role. That's what men do, that's what fathers do. We protect our kids. That's us. Next slide, please. Here's mom, here's dad. Yep, yeah, you know that one? You've seen that one? Okay. We're not suggesting it, we're just saying, next slide, please. As protector, then again, what is our role? How do we fulfill that? How do we widely define what it means to be a protector? Next slide, please. As the protector, moms tend to emphasize protecting our children. Dads tend to prepare our children. So if mom doesn't want bad things to happen, dragging, if strangers or mean dogs or bullies or things, moms want it to never happen, and so do dads. But dads are future folks, so we say, well, if this does happen, this is what you need to do. So we prepare the child for what happens when they're bullies and mean dogs and disease and all those things. So again, there's a good balance. If there's the opportunity for male and female raising the children together, that they're each fulfilling a role that's part of their instinct. Next slide, please. For the providers, guys, we've known this since we were little. We go out and we work in the fields, we go into the mines, we fish the oceans, we hunt and fish. We go out and bring home what the family needs for the food, for sustenance, for success. Next slide, please. And the third role is disciplinarian. So that, I'm old. I'm 77, and I feel really blessed. I'm still working full-time at 77. So when I was growing up in the 50s, it was pretty common for my mom to try and scare my brothers and me, saying, just wait till your dad gets home. I don't think many moms say that anymore, because the world's different from the 50s, obviously. But dads often saw our role as to teach our children, because if we're preparing our children for the future, they need to follow the rules now, especially emotional management, especially controlling our emotions. Next slide, please.
Yeah, I think, hold on. I think Kevin has something else to say.
Yeah, go for it.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Please, anybody.
Yes.
I didn't, but
Experience. And he has so great experience. He has something to say about that. Go ahead. It's the question.
as far as the role of masculinity,
No, into the question in terms of how do you encourage fathers to recognize and embrace the critical role they play in their children's lives?
I encourage them just by letting them know they only have one shot at this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you coming from Head Start, you have from birth to 4 years old, and they're going into kindergarten. And so take the opportunity now. You know, your father didn't do it. If he did, he may not have done it. He may not have understood his role. So your understanding is very limited. If he wasn't involved, the feelings that you have behind that, whether it's indifference or whether it's anger or whether it's you wanting to pursue to be better, but you just don't have the tools. So going through the Nurturing Fathers class will give you the tools.
Okay. So, Leandis, I'm going to direct this question towards you. What challenges do you observe fathers facing when trying to be consistently present in their children's lives, and how do you help them navigate that?
Well, I think the biggest challenge, I was discussing it with a couple of gentlemen over lunch. There's a song that Michael Jackson wrote was "The Man in the Mirror." One of the biggest challenges that a lot of our men faces themselves. And a lot of times when they look at themselves, they have a crack in the mirror. That crack may illustrate them having a substance abuse problem, alcoholism, criminal history, in jail at the time. And it's hard for them to face being the dad or the father that they need to be when they can't face the man that they want to be. So that crack in the mirror has to be removed. Our programs, if we can design to get these men to focus on being drug-free, alcohol-free, being free from recidivism and so forth, where they can begin to start over and look at what steps they need to make. And I would share with a lot of men that I myself, a chronic alcoholic and drug addict, well over 24 years, now being clean for well over 35 years, that they can do what they need to do if they put their mind and their heart into it. And a lot of times they just need an encouraging word or someone to walk with them, to stand by their side and say, you can do this, and I'll be with you every step of the way.
Okay. Good answer. Neil, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. Yes. One of the things there are individual barriers that men carry themselves. There are organizational barriers like maternal child health, who's missing from the family portrait, federal agency, WIC, Women, Infants, and Children, who's missing, Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, who's missing. We have a lot of models out there for moms and kids, and that's great. We never want, fatherhood work is never about taking anything away from mom, it's add dad. So the barriers, one of them is if dad's not married to the mom, he's not gonna have time with his kids unless the mom wants him to or he has to go to court. All 50 states, the children are the property of the mom. So part of it is guys recognizing that and trying to work with the mom so he can have time with them. So, like I said, the individual barriers that guys carry, if he didn't have a healthy model of what being a dad is and he walks away, that's really harmful for the child. The organizational barriers, the systems that I mentioned, and then the societal barriers. What does society expect? A lot of times, society expects that fathers should be invisible or we're suspect. We're invisible, we shouldn't be there, like the institutions I mentioned, or we're suspect. Why is dad walking into elementary school, especially a man of color, walking into elementary school right away? You know, the doors go up and people are suspect. Why are you here? So we need to have change throughout.
Okay. What are some common biases or misconceptions you've encountered that fathers face, and how do you work to challenge and overcome them? Common biases or misconceptions you've encountered that fathers face, how do you work to challenge and overcome them?
Well, a lot of times, first of all, we got to get our mothers to stop telling their children, you're not going to amount to be anything. You're going to be just like your damn daddy. Now, right then, they're telling that child that every other day, week after week, they're scripting that child. And that child recognizes that his father is unemployed, that he walks the street, that he doesn't do this, he's a drug addict. So that child begins to believe that's all I'm going to amount to be. Instead, telling your child, you can be anything that you want to be. You can make it and you can do this. I was raised up in the Boys Club of America because my father wasn't there. My mother wanted to make sure I was around other males, other men, to help me become the man that she could not help me become. So we got to get mothers to quit scripting our children, especially our young men, saying that they're not going to be anything, or they're going to be like a figure that they detest, or they're in a disagreement with.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I always say, for mothers, mother's mother, father's father. A mother can't father, and a father can't mother. We're different. So don't speak bad about the other one.
I was going to mention that because we have a society of women who said, well, I'm the mother and the father. No, you're not. Right. You're just the mother.
Right.
You can't father.
Right.
Because there is that impact, and it's proven scientifically that a male somehow chemically gives something to that child's brain that is unexplainable. So some of the other biases is in our society is when women have, or fathers as well, who have step families. You could have multiple, and that already put barriers to be present as a father. So it's important, and I took that class at ASU way back when I was like, how is this going to help me? Well, now I understand, because that professor said, we're coming into an era where you're going to see a lot of step families. And I didn't understand that, where is multiple families. That the women mother and father different children. And so some of those are biases.
So I go back to Leandis, and what Leandis said with regard to speaking bad about the father in front of the children. I mean, it's one of those things that, speak bad about me all you want to, but speak bad to me. But don't speak bad about me in front of the children, because you cause harm to that. So it kind of leads into this other question that I have with regarding understanding the authentic partnership. Is so, how do you help fathers to navigate conflicts or differing parenting approaches to maintain strong co-parenting partnerships? Because mom is the gateway. We know that mom is the gateway. And trying to get to the child, I got to go through mom if mom is that gateway. A lot of times I see this as the issue, is that fathers can't, navigating those conflicts, it's easy for me to just shut you down. I'm the gateway. You can't get to the child without going through me. And so you're going to do it my way. But how do you, when you're working with fathers, help them to navigate those conflicts or those differing parenting approaches so that there is a strong co-parenting component or partnership?
I believe it starts with an open dialogue. This is definitely something new to the newer generation as far as expressing and opening up to our partners, because a lot of what I heard in the older generation, they didn't really speak too much. Father went to work, father came home, father went to bed, and it was the same thing, Monday through Saturday and then Sunday. So now as young men, we're stepping into fatherhood, and fatherhood is completely different, where we have to be more vulnerable, and we have to be able to speak and say what's on our mind and be able to articulate ourselves that's not offensive to our child's mother. So when I'm hearing sometimes stories between the father and the child's mother, and there's something that went on, I tell fathers, just apologize. Because you don't know what you might have done. But just coming up with your hands up to say, hey, I might have just did something to you, and I want to apologize. if I did hurt you in any type of way. However, we have to understand that me and you coming together, we are doing it, it's bigger than us. It's for our children. So if there's something that I'm lacking, if there's something that I'm not getting, or there's something that you've seen, if you can, be patient with me and let me know so I can come to you, that's welcoming to you and also it's welcoming to me. One thing I talk about, and I think Mike talked about this too, is that I educate the fathers on you using I statements. Instead of you, that is so it's an offensive word, and also why, switching that and rephrasing that to say, hey, I felt that you didn't hear me when I wanted to get something to eat. You automatically said I want to get tacos. I felt that you didn't hear me. Did you hear what I said? So allowing that dialogue to go back and forth, because sometimes we're moving so fast we could overlook how somebody else is feeling, and then now all those things happen where someone's mad, someone's upset, and we don't know what might have happened. So I think just having an open dialogue and understanding what we're doing as parents. We're parenting and we came together, whether we are together or not together, we have a child to raise. So we have to keep in mind what is best for our child. Even if we're not together and moved on, how do you think we should raise our child? What does that look like to have a successful child? Do you think yelling at our child is the best? So we have that dialogue, and we're not using that power to empower and engaging conversations and dialogue with the co-parent. I see it go a lot smoother because now they're incorporated into the parent. A lot of times I look at how us and as kids, we were overlooked and we didn't get asked questions and how that made us feel. And now we're just adults and we still have that same feeling. So it's just important that we have that dialogue where we ask questions and get that feedback, where we seek to understand and to be understood.
Okay. Anyone else on that? How you help fathers navigate conflicts or different parenting approaches?
I think if we understand the differences between maternal and paternal instincts, Dr. Kyle Pruitt wrote a book called Father Need, just one word, Father Need. It came out over 20 years ago. He and his wife did longitudinal studies across cultures, not just Eurocentric, but across cultures on maternal and paternal. And so when I've done workshops, or my wife and I have done workshops for parents, and understanding some of the differences, that moms lighten up a little bit because they see dad's not doing something against mom, that the instincts are different. Moms, 9 times out of 10, by the time a baby's 30 days old, moms approach and hold their infants 9 out of 10 times the same way. Dads approach and hold their infants 9 different ways out of 10. Dads will go in and scoop up the baby and do a football carry. That's a guy thing. There's nothing wrong with it, and the kids like it. So, I mean, there are all these distinctions, and it's not 100%. It doesn't say 100% of moms do one and 100% of dads do this. But when moms and dads recognize that difference, I think, and then when the staff who work with them, home visitors going into the homes, or staff and family service agencies, 95% of them are female. And it's not that they're not hiring men. It's that men, we don't see this as a career choice. Mm-hmm. So the things we're doing is not, a lot of times, isn't typical of what we expect men to be doing. So when men go into nurturing fields and help with parent education and with home visiting and with all the case management and all the things we're all doing, when we look at those and have more men in there to help justify, to help guys recognize, as a father, I'm not doing anything bad. It's just that's how I think, and that's how I think and feel. So I think understanding the differences, then the conflict goes down because they both realize, unless it's harming the child, we're just different, and that's okay.
Yeah, so one of the examples, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because I was just at a resource fair function, and the dad had his little girl, and I was cracking up because he had the little girl, and first he was holding her, she was down. The next thing I know, she's on his shoulder. Then he's flipped her around so she's like laying on his shoulder. Then he's got her underneath the arm. And the mom was there, and the mom was kind of looking, and I was like, the interesting thing about that, I said, when you hold the baby looking back, and you're always looking forward. Well, that's mom's role. Mom's role is to be that protector, looking forward and preparing the world for the child. When you look at dad is always picking up, it's under the arm, you're always facing in the same direction. It's because I'm preparing the child for the world. So that nurturing is different, but it complements, they complement one another.
You know, I wanted to add something when we take a look at authentic partnerships. Today's terminology is called co-parenting. This is where when parents are not together, they want to learn how to parent together. But there's Dr. Jeffrey Johnson. He designed a curriculum called team parenting, TEAM, where the parents work as a team to parent their child. Because once the separation comes between a mom and dad, resentment begins to set in when she sees that he has another woman, or he sees that she got another man. I don't want to pay no child support for you to be spending on that so-and-so. Or I don't want my child being under that bee or something like that. Excuse me, ladies. But the thing about it is that no matter if mom is with another man or dad is with another woman, all four of you are part of a team that should be looking at how to relate to each other for the safety and security of the child. Now, even if there's a kinship or foster care relationship, it's still a team. And we need to be able to be on a page where I'm not saying anything conflicting of what you're doing. How can I agree to how you're doing things and vice versa, for us to see that the child sees that all of these individuals that they love are working together on their behalf. No one is talking behind the other's back when I'm in this household or that household. Matter of fact, they may be complimenting each other. So that child's safety and well-being, whether it's in school, with his social relationship, his peer relationship, becomes very positive because he got positive reinforcement in both the homes that he's a part of. So team parenting, working as a team. No one wins an NBA championship. Michael Jordan didn't do it by himself. No one can do it by themselves. It takes a team effort to make something a winner.
Good point. Good point. So let's talk a little bit about two questions on strategies and implementation as we turn the corner and wrap this up. Practical tools and methods. So what practical tools or methods do you find most effective for encouraging fathers to stay actively engaged in support services? So we had this question this morning where I was like, how do we get fathers to be engaged? But once they're locked in, once they're in with you, what do you do to encourage them to stay engaged in those support services?
Yeah, I believe it goes back to the educational part, because we don't understand how important it is to be a father. You know, when I was being a young father and I was growing up, I used to ask a lot of older generation of men. I got myself frustrated and sugar because no one can give me an answer, right? I even asked y'all, what is a father? What is a father? Leader, protector, right? What else? That's it? Mentor, teacher. There's all these different things that's thrown out there, right? You can keep going on and on and on and on and on until we really break down and educate your actual role as a father. You are the source. Everything comes from you. And so I look at it just as a leader, because someone will say, respect, honor, duty, teacher. You're just a leader, you know, because everything falls under that. You're going to empower people. You are the CEO, your co-partner is the CFO, and the kids are the board of directors. And so at your job, you wouldn't yell at somebody, would you? So why would you do that at your home? You know, you would ask before you made a decision with your supervisor, right? Why don't you do it at home? So it took me from actually working these things and seeing the type of outcome I wanted for my children. We didn't even talk about parenting styles and what that looks like, the outcome of that. Because not even knowing your parenting style will determine your outcome. And so when we break these things down, it's like I said with them questions, what do you want your kid to, how do you want your kid to operate once they leave outside the home? I want them to be sufficient. I want them to be a leader. Okay, so what things are you doing with them to prepare them once they leave the home? No one could ever answer that question for me. And so I had to do the research, endless research. And like I said, being a citizen scientist and working on my own kids, because parenting 10 years ago is different from today. When I talk about parents with screen time, no one knows about that. No one knows about I have to parent with screen time. I have to do all these different things that are different from the older generation. So when I talk to, fathers now, it's completely different. How understanding their role and how important it is for them to be present in their kids' lives. Because we can go through all the statistics, the development part, the cognitive development, and all those things, and how it plays an important part. However, it takes you being present. So if you want to be and adapt this parenting style of not being present, this is what it's going to lead to. Your kid is going to be on drugs. Your kid is not going to have high self-esteem. Your kid is always going to might go through the system, going to go through prison, going to be obese. We might go through the prison school pipeline. These are things that is going to happen to your child if you're not present. Do you want those things to happen to your child? Do you want those things to happen to your child? So when you sit there and educate someone about what is really going on, then they become engaged. Because they don't want, of course not. Who wants their kid to go through that? Nobody. Okay. So when you sit here and educate somebody and let them know what they really are going through, then they make a conscious decision like, you know what, I do want to be engaged. But I think some people just talk over the person instead of with the person to see what they're wanting to do, where they're at, and then going from there and working with the person, not talking to the person, because it's completely different.
Okay, so part of that engagement to encourage them, it's kind of the encouragement piece to stay in the program and to continue to go, because that's really what I want to look at. Because when you're going through, whether you're going through Healthy Start, whether you're going through NAFA, the programs that we have individually, the Nurturing Fathers program, they're not easy, and they're meant to challenge. They're meant to push you. They're meant to get you to step outside of your comfort zone. So outside of that, in terms of are there any other tools or things that you use to continue to encourage them to stay in it, to stay in those supportive services?
I think you need to make them feel, building on what Thurston said. He's talking about all those things. When dads touch their emotions and they feel, they're more, you can educate people about maternal and paternal, but when they feel, like you talked earlier about, when you get dads to get into a core and establish trust so they're open, show all their emotions. Because, the dominant culture in the United States is taught big boys don't cry and big boys aren't afraid. If boys grow up thinking they can't show fear and they can't show sadness, and they can't see their kids, their secondary response is anger. They go over and they pound on the door, and she calls the police, and then there's a restraining order for 6 months. He can't see the kids unless there's supervised visitation. We need to allow dads to feel a wide range of emotions in safe ways, that when they're allowed to really feel, they're going to want to stay involved with their kids, with the mother, hopefully with the mother kids, but with the system. Because the system, if we establish trust with the fathers, they're going to want to come back because they want to feel that again. And they don't want to quit after 12 sessions. They want to feel good the rest of their lives. So what can they do? And Edward earlier mentioned something about connecting with other guys in the group even after it's over. You want that to continue because we're going to support each other. And you establish this network of dads that you can say, I really have a question. Help me.
One of the things that I talk to the group of dads is, okay, what's going to happen after we finish here? One of the things that we talk about is you keep transforming yourself. We talked about pieces of your feelings, how your relationship was with your father. You keep revisiting that to be a better father. So you have the tool. You do extracurricular activities. If there's support groups, you join the support groups, but you keep revisiting what you learn, especially when you talk about feelings, because it's a continuous transformation. So you're transforming yourself to be a better father, because by doing that and the connections with your children, you already impacting your children 3 generations. You come from 2 generations that impacted you, so you're working double time to transform that. But it's up to you.
Okay.
It's up to you to continue revisiting this and joining other groups, support groups.
Okay.
And you know, what I'd like to add to that is that a lot of fathers have gotten non-involved with different programs to help them be better men and fathers because of various issues, whether it's transportation, housing. They have barriers that they don't look at as being a priority. When you take a look at Maslow hierarchy, you take a look at food, shelter, and all these mechanisms before you get to working with the individuals. I work with a lot of dads that are in Maricopa County jail systems. Now, while they're in jail, they are a very captive audience because what I may have to offer is a whole lot better than what the jail has to offer. So they're going to show up on a regular basis to the different curriculums that we provide. But once they get released, they come up with transportation issues, all type of issues, and they don't have the support to get to where they need to be. If I have some men that I want to refer to the man cave, one of the first things, Phoenix is a large community, is going to say, how do I get there? Well, you get a job. Well, I got to get a job first. I have to do this, this, and that first. Back in the Midwest, one of the criterias for men to come into Father's program, it was court ordered. If they didn't come or go, they were going to get remanded back to jail. But once they come to 3 or 4 of the classes, they find that this thing is off the chain. I'm learning something. But we have to have something to get them at the table besides just a desire to change. You talked about incentives. $25 to get there. First they come from the money, and at the end they say, it ain't even about the money. It's how they develop and became a better man. What it is, we got to get people to the table. We can't get them to try to eat from afar. If we can get these men to follow the different curriculums and to complete these curriculums, yes, we're going to have a better man. And then after they complete it, start what they call a fraternity for them to help train other men. Get a group, a graduation group of these men. And they're going to establish them a group of positive men, because iron sharpens iron. And the more we keep them sharpened, the more they're going to pass it on to the next. They can come back and work with the new starters of the program. Let them know that I was once where you were. But we have to get funding and support to help get us these men. If they are tired of our men committing crimes, going to jail, do something to help them stay in positive programs.
All right, so let me cut across the field and come get you on this last question, and I'll give you an opportunity for each one of you to answer it. So, what success stories or examples of fatherhood's authentic partnerships can you share that other organizations or that others might learn from? Success stories of fatherhood, of an authentic fatherhood partnership that others might learn from. Success stories. I'm going to start with Kevin.
Yeah, you can go ahead and start with me. Well, for me, I don't take any credit for this, but my brother, Luis Chavez, who's here today, he's been a part of Man Cave. He had both of his children in the Head Start program, and through that, he started to attend the Man Cave. He wanted to get better as a father, and that was 8 years ago, Luis. And the man continues to come back and be a part of Man Cave and to promote it and just share with the members of his family how it's changed his life, how he enjoys being a father more, how he's a better husband, and now he's passing it on. So that's one success story that I share with most people.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Darius is my good friend. He's the most recent one that we went through the Nursing Fathers program and a couple other fathers. But the one thing I noticed that there really isn't no follow-up once, they leave the program, like Alex said. So when I follow up with them as part of our mentorship program and follow up and get to hear how they're speaking to their children is just touching. How they're utilizing the tools that they use, that they learn during the Nurturing Fathers program. A lot of those communication skills, a lot of those breathing techniques to calm down, to de-escalate, leaving the room, having water, it's just so fulfilling to see that when a dad does the work, they see the outcome. Because the programs, it don't matter what we say up here, it only works if they do the work. And I state that when they first come in. It only works if you do the work. So if you really want to better your life and be a better man, husband, and a better man in the community, and if you do this work, you'll see the fruits of your labor. And when I follow up with these fathers and see how calm they are, see how they're interacting with their children, seeing how they're playing, how they're scheduling time, how they put child play time on their schedule. Because you put everything in your calendar that's important, right? How come you don't put playtime with your child? And I always challenge them with that. So if it's so important to you, and you say you're a father, and you say, these are my pride and joy, I love them to death, put time on your schedule. Put 30 minutes. And put your phone on Do Not Disturb. And then say, hey, from this time to this time, I'm with my kids. I mean, if it's that important to you.
I always tell the group of dads that, join the Nurturing Fathers program is just by you being here, you already make successful. I started a dad's night out about 10 years ago when I was a caseworker up north, and we just had kind of like what we're doing now, Dad Talks, but there's just so many testimonials, but one that always comes to mind is I had a father who was going through court-ordered parenting, and because he wanted to see his son, and he was already 4 years old, and so he lived in Wickenburg, and if anybody knows, Wickenburg is quite a ways, and so we were working in Deer Valley, and he would come out to the dad's night out, drive all the way from over there and so forth. So he got the opportunity to see his son. And we had a dad's night out at the park, and he was nervous. And his son came, and as soon as his son saw him, he ran all over the park because he was so excited to see his father. And that always gets me, because he did it on his own. He was trying to thank me. I said, no, you did it. You did it because to you he was important, and you being here, it means a lot to him. That's why he's doing all this. Because this little boy was so excited to see his father, and it just made everything. So it just started from there, and it always stands out. So that's a great testimonial, but there's so many other in the Nurturing Fathers program.
With South Phoenix Healthy Start, one of the eligibility criterias, or a couple of criterias, is that a mom must be pregnant or have a child 0 to 18 months of age. A lot of times these moms sign up for the program just themselves, but we talk them into telling us who the dad is, and do the dad want to get into the program as well. When the father and mother both engage into the program, and the father's in our fatherhood component, and they're eligible for the program up until the child is age 18 months of age. And when you see both parents meeting with their case manager, attending the educational classes, and complete this entire program at age 18 months of age, it gives you a lot to think about how this family wants to make their family work. And we give them various incentives throughout the whole time that they're in the program. But as you stated earlier, Marion, it doesn't become about the incentives. It becomes real important about them seeing that the health of their family is so important, because our goal is to make sure we reduce the infant mortality rate, the maternal mortality rate, and these families are becoming healthy in the South Phoenix area.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get them to see that their health and their family is so important to them, you see the growth in that, not only the family, but in the relationship. Someone asked you a question before you guys ended your last session, Marion. Do you have something for the mothers as well as the fathers? And you share with them. Yeah. I think this is going to be a very successful program when you can work with families.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the dad, not just the mom, but families.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Thank you.
My story is when my son was 3, I have only one biological child. When my son was 3 and my older daughter was 11, my first wife just left. She came home I won't get into it. She met another guy. She gave me the kids. And in 1979, hardly any dads had custody of their kids. So I was a single dad for 9 years, and it was hard, but I was always there for my kids. I had work to support the family, and there were times that were tough because I never got child support, but that was a different story. Most dads, anyway, not even go in that story. When my son got married, and he had 4 daughters, and his wife left him. And we thought, what, do we have something on our forehead that says, just walk away from us after a while? But he was there. He was there for his daughters. His one daughter ended up dying of cancer at 16, but he was always there for them. And he now he's remarried and has a much bigger family because he brought in her kids, his kids, and then their kids. And he just turned 49 last week, and he's been working with a father's program full time since he was 23. So I've passed that baton to my son, and I'm very proud that he's doing that. And the other thing I want to mention is every day I get up, I have on my wedding ring, and I think of it to remind me to be the best husband I can be. I wear my St. Christopher medal every day, and I do that to remind me to be a good Christian man every day. And I carry in my pocket this that I got from Marion a couple years ago. It's a Great Dad coin, and the story in the Great Dad coin means a lot. And I carry that every day to remind me to be a good dad. Because I think when we raise healthy men, healthy husbands, and healthy fathers, our whole culture is going to benefit hugely. That father absence and father hunger will reduce, and guys will be there for their children, and the system will support them wherever they are on their journey.
All right. That's a good wrap-up. So there you go. Give it up for our father, for our panel. So that concludes our day and concludes our summit and our time together. I thank you for hanging in there and being with us for the day. I hope that we have poured something into you that is going to motivate you to want to come along beside us. I always say jump on the same trampoline to serve fathers. We want to make an impact in your community. If there's anything that we can do, if there's any training, if there's anything that we can bring to you to give you that stronghold or that foothold so that you can make a difference in your community, let us know. I always have in my head now, we are Pops, we are Man Cave. That's what we are. That's what we're going to be. And that's where we're moving. And we'll bring other fatherhood programs that want to jump on that same trampoline with us along. But there's a work to do. The harvest is ripe, but the laborers are few. And we need to increase the laborers so that we can impact and make a change. So thank you. Please make sure, I think there was a survey or evaluation that's a part of your flipping book or somewhere around. Fill that out so that we can improve this. Now, tomorrow's the second day But tomorrow's a fun day. So if you've got kids, you want to come out, we're going to be playing games. We'll have a resource fair. We're just going to have a good time for about 3 hours. We're bringing a food truck out to feed everybody. We're just going to have some fun tomorrow. That's it. The work has been done today. The fun is tomorrow. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate your participation.
You got to give some of this away, right?
Fatherhood.
Craziest hood around.
Real good.